Pokemon is going through an evolutionary phase at the moment. BDSP released in November, Pokemon Legends Arceus released just 3 months later in January, and now Pokemon Scarlet Violet is releasing in the holiday season of 2022. That's 3 major mainline entries to the Pokemon series in just 1 year. While I still hold true to my speculation that Pokemon BDSP only exists because of COVID delaying Pokemon Legends, and was most likely made within that year, which would explain the bare minimum effort put into it, it's absolutely bonkers to see 2 main series Pokemon games developed by GameFreak release in the same year. Yeah, GameFreak is literally now in competition with itself for Game of the Year, on top of all the other games releasing. Yeah, is Pokemon Scarlet Violet about to be a rushed mess? How far along in development is it? Let's take a look. How's everyone doing today? I'm Johto Jonny, known for my gaming analysis here on YouTube. I research game development and catch the smallest details possible, both in pre-release trailers and in finished products. Today, we're analyzing the exciting trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to decipher GameFreak's current developmental practices. Up until now, GameFreak has split its workforce up into 2 teams, Team 1 and Team 2. Team 1, their primary focus is the Gears system. This team works on non-Pokemon IPs, and GameFreak has reiterated in several interviews that this is actually their primary focus at the company. While I find it absolutely bonkers that GameFreak doesn't actually focus on Pokemon, it does explain a lot with how their more recent 3D outings, save for Pokemon Legends, haven't lived up to expectations for the fans. It doesn't help either that their non-Pokemon IPs typically flop, both critically and sales-wise. Better luck next time, I guess. This leaves Team 2 to make Pokemon games, aka their biggest seller, and also the games that we all actually look forward to from them. Now, GameFreak has been pushing out a game every year for a long time. Yet, they claim to spend about 2 to 3 years in development for each individual title they make. This must mean that Team 2 also splits itself up into 2 smaller groups depending on their project load. This isn't looking very good. Up until development of Pokemon Legends, GameFreak barely had 140 employees. I'll go over how many they have now in a second, but first, let's expand on what they've been doing all this time before Pokemon Legends. 140 employees, split to make Teams 1 and 2. Worst case scenario, these teams split the 140-person team in half. 70 members in each team. Then, Team 2 is Pokemon, and that splits up into 2 groups as well. We'll call them Teams A and Team B. Worst case scenario, this is an even split as well, leaving 35 members dedicated to each Pokemon game. That is small. To put into perspective, there are indie games that have more members dedicated to their titles, and most AAA studios, which GameFreak is a AAA studio based on its sales, reputation, and resources, usually have over 1,000 members and don't even release games yearly. This sounds absolutely bonkers! Am I right? Now, keep in mind that was the worst case scenario. I doubt GameFreak splits its members up in these exact numbers, though we should acknowledge that it is a possibility. Especially since, like I said, they've publicly stated many times that gear is their primary focus in the company. Regardless, things are looking a bit brighter lately. Why is that? How come Pokemon Legends Arceus has so much more care and effort put into it? And how come Pokemon Scarlet and Violet look so good already in their first trailer? Well, I have several answers for you. Let's take a look at GameFreak today. 2 years after Sword and Shield met fan backlash to the heaviest degree the series has seen yet. For one, GameFreak hired more employees within the last 2 years, upping their total number to 167 members. Sounds small, but if we go by the worst case scenario that we talked about earlier, that adds almost a full Team A or B's worth to work on whatever project they're needed for. That's pretty huge in the grand scheme of things. Not as great as it could be, granted, but definitely a positive trend. I'd also argue that the Gears team may have actually worked on Pokemon Legends with the rest of the crew. With Legends being such a huge departure for the series, and one that includes so many action elements that most likely won't be included in the generational games, it's a fair scenario to consider that they actively wanted to branch Pokemon out in the way that they wanted to branch out into other IPs. It may even have been part of the deal with Nintendo, as 2 years ago, GameFreak moved into Nintendo's offices. This is another huge part of what is shaping GameFreak today, as opposed to back when they worked on Sword and Shield. Not only does Nintendo provide higher quality resources to GameFreak in a faster and easier way, but they have entire teams and members who can pitch in to help develop Pokemon games. Pokemon Legends was made in an environment where GameFreak could take a quick elevator ride up to Monolith Soft Studios for consultation. The open-world masterminds behind the Xenoblade series and even co-developers of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Heck, GameFreak now can consult anyone at Nintendo so they can understand the Switch hardware better and make games more seamlessly integrated. It really shows already when you play Pokemon Legends Arceus and realize how fast the menus are and how seamless transitions have become compared to Pokemon Let's Go PV and Pokemon Sword and Shield, which sported some of the most sluggish menus and clunky transitions on the Switch to date. Best case scenario, GameFreak had at least half of its 167 employees working on Pokemon Legends during development of Sword and Shield's DLC and the first phase or two of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's development, plus benefiting from added resources and consultation from the move into Nintendo's headquarters. Worst case scenario, GameFreak had around 40 to 60 members working on Pokemon Legends during development of Sword and Shield's DLC and the first phase or two of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's development, plus, again, benefiting from added resources and consultation from the move into Nintendo's headquarters. All this compared to what would have been a worst case scenario of 35 members working on Legends with no added benefits and resources and consultation previously if Game Freak remained the same after making Sword and Shield. That is a huge positive trend in my opinion. Which brings us back to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. How far in development is it? Will it be rushed? Let's start by comparing the first trailer of Scarlet and Violet to the first trailer of Pokemon Legends Arceus. With roughly the same release schedule from trailer number 1 to full release of the game, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's first trailer already showcased further progression than Legends Arceus had upon first reveal. SV has NPCs, completed textures and updated models for the Pokemon, fully implemented billboarding for assets and Pokemon, aka they run at a smooth frame rate from afar thanks to the assets becoming more 2D at a distance, and SV also has what looks to be a finished lighting engine for the game. These things were all not included in the reveal trailer for Pokemon Legends Arceus, but are present in Pokemon SV's reveal. This means Pokemon SV is actually a little bit ahead of development compared to Legends Arceus when accounting for the reveal trailer to the time of release. Matter of fact, SV's trailer is more comparable to Legends Arceus' second trailer, which didn't release until just 5 months before the game officially released to the public. With Scarlet and Violet being at least 8 months away from release, this is a very good sign that it will be the most worked on Pokemon game before release in a long time, even more so than Legends, which like I said already showcased a positive trend. To summarize, not only does Game Freak have even more employees since their last generational release, but they may have split up their total members in a better way. They have definitely benefited from added resources and consultation thanks to their move to Nintendo's headquarters. And pre-release footage of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is ahead of schedule in the quality and density departments, even compared to Pokemon Legends Arceus. All in all, we're on a positive trend in Pokemon. And no, compared to past releases of Game Freak games, I don't think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are releasing too soon. I will say, however, that it is absolutely bonkers that they keep doing yearly releases. We need some room to breathe, and Legends was, to me, the perfect game to do that with. But, oh well. What are your thoughts on all this though? Let me know down in the comments, and until the next video, I've been Johto Jonny. Peace out.